Welcome to the new episode of All Jazz. I'm your host, Matias, and I have with me my friend, Eric Berger. Welcome to the podcast.
It's an honor to be here, brother.
So our connection is obviously Dr. Hawkins, our teacher, and but before you met, or before you found out about him, as some of us, you didn't have quite an easy life. So take us back. Well, so what was going on in your life, say a few years prior to finding Dr. Hawkins' work?
Well, I can tell you how I found Doc's work by grace. I was locked up again, and this time I was facing 12 years in prison. So for being a drug addict, that's it. I was caught with the whole lot. Well, I wasn't even caught. By grace, I waited for the police to get there. They were called on me, and I waited for like 29 minutes. And when the cop came up to me, I took out everything in my hands and said, "I can't stop. Please help me." So before, all the times I got arrested was in New York, and like they let you go. For what I had in Florida, no, they don't mess around. So so I was taken to jail. It was court ordered to rehab. The same rehab I was 2 other times before, but I went there pretty much. I ran out of drugs and I ran out of money.
Right.
And I was homeless. So it was either go listen to that, the crap for 30 days, or be on the street. So but the third time was a different deal. I noticed I started having a spiritual awakening even in jail. I was not there that long, 3 months. But I started having a spiritual awakening in jail after being hooked on heroin for so many years. It was so nice to not need dope. I never had that until, from the first time I tried it, I never had to not. Always, from the first time I tried it. So I remember I was like working out. This is after 3 weeks of just hell, kicking cold turkey, kicking any kind of opiate, but especially heroin. Oh my God. But anyway, and after about 3 weeks, when I started to feel normal, started exercising, first time in years. And, I used to be pretty good at it. So I remember there was a few Mexican guys there who could not speak English. You know what I mean? I speak 4 words in Spanish, maybe. And I remember like working out with them, like lifting up. If you ever been in jail, you don't have weights. You have certain things like a shelf or mattresses. So that's another thing. Oh, you know that?
No, I don't know that, but I can imagine.
Yeah. So you roll up a mattress, 2 mattresses, and put a string in it, and it's weights. You do what you can. But I remember being in front of 4 or 5 Mexican guys, was going like this, and they were going like this, and I felt freer at that moment and happier than I've ever had in my life, or at least for 10 years, at least. Wow. And I was just so grateful to, like, you know what I mean? Like, if I ate on the street, if I had any money, it was going to dope. That's the truth. Right. If I had, you know what I mean? Like, if I could afford it once in a while, like every couple of days, I'd have like a French fries or something.
Right. And this was in Florida.
It started in New York.
Right.
And then I moved to Florida. I moved to Florida from New York because my mom said, "I'll give you $200 if you move to Florida." I was living with my mom. So a friend who got sober, called her and said, "Hey, come to Florida. It's like the rehab capital, possibly of the world, South Florida." So he called her up and said, "Hey, I can help your son." My mom said, "I'll give you $200. All this time, I stole from her, so all I heard was $200, which, by the way, 150 of that was gone. Yes, that's all I heard. So she got me a next. So I came to Florida with $50 in my pocket the next day. you know, and within a few days, got thrown out of a halfway house for using. Within a few days, was homeless, and yeah. So anyway, I'm not trying to cry to you guys. You know what I'm saying? So yeah, hopeless, and then it took about 9 months of that, of being homeless and everything. So I went to detox a few times, went to rehab a few times. Anyway, long story short, I was blessed by the grace of God to come to a police officer, a sheriff that was called deputy, and said, "Please help me. I can't stop. Please help me." That was not me talking. I can promise you that.
Mm.
No junkie does that, especially when there's drugs. When there's more drugs, I can be like, I can be all honest and when there's nothing left. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
But when I have dope in my pocket, no junkie does that. I learned that lesson. At least this junkie does it.
Was that used in the court, like your statement that I can't stop? Was that used to make you go to rehab?
It was, yes,
Okay.
but that was later on.
Right.
So yeah. So anyway, working out with a bunch of Mexicans who are sweethearts. I'm like, for the first time, and so happy, smiling, just like feel like a human being again. You know what I mean? This
Mm.
was, and yeah, and I thought I was going to be like I was for the rest of my life. You know what I mean? Especially with dope, like every couple of days someone overdoses, and a real junkie, when they find out that someone overdoses, they're like, "Where did he get it from?" Because that's good shit.
Really? Oh my goodness.
So I remember
Wow.
a couple of times. You know what I mean? The goal is to get a little under overdose. That's the goal. Because if you overdose, then they hit you with something called anti-opiate, which puts you into withdrawal immediately, and it is hell. so so
Oh.
the key is to like come a little bit under dying, just a little under dying.
So is it true that when you first take a certain drug that it hits you high, but then the next time you need a bit more, and then you need a bit more, and then you need a bit more?
The
Wow.
first time I tried it, Matias, I first time I tried it, like I never felt like that in my life. It was like, and like immediately a thought, I want to feel this way for the rest of my life. That's
Wow.
that I remember walking home, like happy and just, what I mean. This is how I want to feel for the rest of my life. I don't want to feel anything but this.
Yeah.
Anyway, so in jail, blah blah blah. I did something I haven't done, and I started reading books. I read a couple books in jail, which, you know what I mean.
Yeah,
Uh,
you got time. You got time.
yeah, time and like a willingness. So yeah, and anyway, a few months later, was court ordered to a 30-day rehab where I was before, and then court ordered to a 6-month rehab, right? Um, oh, back up, Grace. The judge says to me, I remember I'm in court before I get sentenced. The judge says to me, with this, you can go on drug offender probation. However, if you violate, you are doing 12 years. And in Florida, it's called day for day, meaning every single day. There's no like off time for good behavior.
Right.
Anyway, and here's Grace. And this addict said, "Your Honor, if you let me go today, I'll have a needle in my arm today." Remember that in the courtroom in front of. If you let me go today, I will have a needle in my arm today. That was also not me.
Wow.
And of course, everybody went, you know what I'm saying? And like instantly, like there's a bunch of guys also in jail. They're like, "Dude, you could have went home, or you know what I mean?" And so like,
You could
I
have
might have been,
died.
yeah,
You could have died.
for real. So anyway, so she says, "Okay, then you're not going anywhere." And she court ordered me to a 30-day rehab while I'm waiting for a bed in the 6-month rehab. Right. So anyway, I get to the 6-month rehab. And there's a girl there. I have no spiritual anything, but there's a girl there. And I'm a guy, and I was sleazy, like a douchebag. You know what I mean? Testosterone, tough, like just full of crap. And there was a girl that I really wanted to utsa putsa. But
Yeah.
she would not have anything to do with me because I'm, New York, that, you know what I mean? That bullshit, that freaking, you know what I mean? So
Yeah.
anyway, so she was a doc student.
Hmm.
And I knew she would not have anything to do with me as a heathen. So I started, you know how I don't know if you ever like pretending like I like certain things to get someone's, you know what I'm saying?
Right.
So,
Okay.
you know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah.
So I asked, she says, have you ever heard of Dr. Hawkins? And I said, no. You know what I mean? But I'm honestly, she's blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, how do I get this? You know what I mean? How do I get them? Anyway, so at that time, Power versus Force, the I, and I were the only 3 books out, So anyway, I read Power versus Force with a dictionary, with a dictionary. God bless anyone who can read that. Anyway, in rehab. And I knew I was home. I seemingly did not have God or anything like that, but I remember like in chapter 4, when he's talking about the kinesiological test, and I remember going, holy crap, I got goosebumps. Like I found home. So anyway, by the way, never, what's up that girl? 17 years later, never did.
Okay.
Wasn't able. So it's not because I just wasn't able to. It's not like,
I never heard that slang term before. That's new to me, but I like it.
Well, in English, you hear bang chicka wang wang, and in Russian, at least in New York, in Russian.
Oh, okay.
So that's my, we all have an ego name. That's the student's ego name. Is which is bang chicka wang wang. Anyway.
By the way, I just want to backtrack just a little bit. What was your religious background in New York? Were you like Catholic? Were you Jewish? What was it?
Whole family was Jewish, the whole family, but not practicing. I had a bar mitzvah, and that's it.
Okay, that's it. All right.
Yeah, and anything talked about God was about right and wrong. That's it. You know what I mean? And I knew I was not allowed to go into a church. So I remember one time I had to go into a church, and that was wrong. You know what I mean? So like,
yeah, okay, has to be synagogue. Yes. All right.
Yes. God bless me. I mean, honestly, but yeah. So anyway, long story short, start reading the books, realize I'm home, realize I'm home. So to not go into a whole long story. So a year and change later, I was sober for a little over a year. I went back to court, and I've had the spiritual awakening, and there was like, I asked to go like on a peace pilgrimage over the United States with another monk named Swami Jaguar. Ooh. So and if if probation, you cannot leave the county. Definitely can't leave the county, not the county, not the state. So I came to ask the judge if I could leave, if I had the permission to leave the state to Virginia for a peaceful, for a 2-week thing. And she said to me, she remembered me. And she must have had like 100 cases a day, like honestly. And she said to me, Mr. Berger, I'll do you one better. From this point, the state dismisses all charges.
Wow.
Grace.
Wow, that's amazing.
I'm sorry. So yeah, talk about grace.
Yeah.
So anyway, and this teacher seemingly was like knowing how she seemingly in the 500s. I was nowhere near 500 then, and I remember being in the same room with in the same van, and then we got to the hotel, and I could not handle her energy. I could not handle it. I felt like demons were I had no idea that this was the entrance into a new level of consciousness.
Wow.
Into love. But anyway, and I ran away. I was there for a day and a half, and I ran away.
Really?
Back to my mom in New York,
But hold on, was this spiritual teacher? Was she? What would you say? She was Buddhist or something, or?
Her name is Peace Mother. Okay. She's definitely in the 500s. I mean, I don't know. She was like, I guess, Native American.
Right. Got it.
But also, she introduced me to Krishna and to the Buddha. I wasn't ready for Christ yet. It took me a long time because it was wrong and bad.
Right. Given your background, yeah, you're like, oh, this is verboten. This is you don't go there. All right. Yeah. Right.
So anyway, I ran back to New York. I remember before I left Virginia, I have not felt like it was like hell. Like it felt literally like demons were attacking me. Like I was suicidal and homicidal and everything else. So the monk said, "Hey, why don't you do this mantra?" So I did this mantra for hours and hours. Anyway, I couldn't handle it, and I said, "I'm sorry." I didn't even think I said I'm sorry. I think I just left, like leaving them too. You know what I mean? Screwed them over because I helped them unload. Anyway, ran back to my mom, and this is amazing. And my mom thought I was getting high again. I was a year and change sober, but I was so like, and I remember being like in a fetal position at my mom's house for 3 weeks. And my mom, she's from communist Ukraine. She don't play that. She's not like, she's not like that. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, 3 weeks later of not showering practically, not shaving, like just like this at my mom's house. Something happens for the first time in my life. I start crying tears of joy. Never had that before. And that was seemingly for this student, the entrance into a new realm. And that was 17-ish years ago, 16 years ago. And yeah, and that has only grown. Tears of joy, you know, one of the gifts God has given me, if I see some, like what Doc says, but of course, much less, but if I see some form of kindness, tenderness, love, instantly like tears, you know what I mean? That's a gift of God, you know.
I just want to know, and during those few weeks that you were in the fetal position, what was the process? What was the thought process? Were you like praying, or were you waiting for something? Were you like incapacitated? You couldn't do anything? What was happening with you?
I remember I felt so demonic and so mean. The guilt of leaving them, you know what I mean? There was no talking to God. I felt like a worthless worm. You know, I don't know what level I was at, but it was not, you know what I'm saying? I don't want to count, but very, very low. You know what I mean? It reminded me of when I would do drugs and had no more energy and would just look up at the ceiling, thinking I'm going to be condemned to this life for the rest of my life, and just sitting, looking at the ceiling for hours. It reminded me of that. Yeah, so there was no going to God. They were just like, honestly, demonic, like anger and sadness and guilt and shame and like, and there was seemingly nothing else. You know what I mean? And then and then in 1 second.
Wow. So it was like so it was by grace again, saved by grace.
By grace, 150%. By grace, sober by grace. Yeah, it was grace that took me to the police officer and said, you know, I can't stop. Please help me. It was grace that was it's grace, and it's to this moment talking to you. It's grace.
So
the
then,
ego likes to say credit. Okay.
So then you, after you came back too, and you were struck with this grace, this spiritual awakening. What happens then?
Well, you know, if I'm honest, you know, I went back to Florida. Went back. I was a little still traumatized, but I went back to this teacher. You know what I'm saying? So, and I was able to stay this time 2 weeks, and then I ran away again. so anyway, yeah. So what in this, you know, to be honest, with this student, he had the consciousness of love and the joy and all that, but not the integrity. The integrity came only after the steps, after I did 12 steps years later.
Right.
So a lot of people, women, would take the lovingness as personal, like Doc says. You know what I mean? It's divine love, but people take it as personal love. So I misused that. I used that to my advantage. You know, somebody like, you know what I mean? Like a girl's looking for Jesus. And then, so I go like, you know, I'm like, you know, you don't need Jesus, you need me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So that was, I did douchebag things like that.
I'm Jewish. I'm the renegade. You know, rabbi.
Yeah, that's hilarious. Grow a beard. So yeah, so that and by the way, I tried many things to escape my addiction. I joined the U.S. Marine Corps.
Oh wow.
Yeah.
How long?
But not very long. I came there withdrawing from heroin. So if anybody who's withdrawn from any substance knows it sucks, but having like people scream like that, you have to run and everything. Oh my God, screw that. I lasted 42 days in boot camp. And
Oh, that's longer than I expected.
yeah,
That's enough to
right?
keep you clean,
Yeah.
clean.
And it's so funny because finally it was out of my system. So I wasn't no longer physically withdrawing.
Hmm.
Uh, when you go to boot camp, they fly you there. But if you leave any other way than honorable, they send you on a bus back. So,
Did
so
Did you get the bus?
I remember getting closer to New York, even though it was out of my system, and already feeling withdrawn, feeling dope sick, feeling like you know what I mean? Like I before I even made it to New York, I was already like going through physical symptoms like hardcore, even though that was gone for weeks already.
Wow.
You know what I'm saying? So like,
Wow.
God, the mind is no, but yeah. So yeah. So fast forward, by grace, crying tears of joy, misusing the light, using the light really to seduce. I didn't realize it at the time because I mean there was genuine love too, but I was knowing the effect it has and misusing that. You know what I mean? Like you know what I mean? Being
Yeah.
sweet, not because I'm sweet, but to get something. You know what I'm saying? Like that.
Right.
So it was full of shit.
Yeah. Like I think some gurus get into that as well, but that's more power. I think with guys, maybe I think it's a combination of looks and you got
Yeah.
the looks plus you had the kindness or charm. So yeah, okay, I see.
That's the love consciousness definitely seemingly gives one charm. you
Mm,
know, but it's false for this student. It's false. So anyone who misuses the light sooner or later will hit a crash and hit a bottom. That's my experience. Anytime to this day, it's a lot more narrow. But if I misuse the light, sometimes even a little bit, already start to. And as an addict, as an alcoholic, one of the ways you can tell if someone is spiritually fit is the second I start being sleazy, the second I go like this, instantly a drug looks good to me. That's the one of the gifts of the 12 steps.
mm,
When I'm spiritually aligned, you know what I mean? You could put heroin in front of me right now, you could put sugar, the same. But
yeah,
I let me start being sleep, let me do this, get a couple of days of that, and then I start looking at it like, oh my God. And
yeah.
sooner or later I'll get high again. That's this student's experience.
That's a really excellent point. I have some other addictions, but that's when I'm in a bad state, they look so attractive, and that's when I usually relapse. If by grace, I sometimes don't, but yeah, like you said it. When you're in a good state, it doesn't look attractive at all. But when you're in a bad state, ooh,
Well,
danger.
if I want to know, there are certain questions I ask myself. If I want to know where I'm at spiritually, not where I think I am, the mind will say, "Oh, I'm the best" or "I'm the worst." But how I really am truly my spiritual state is if I have an addiction, how does my addiction look at that moment? Is it like, or is it, yeah, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
Does
yeah,
porn look? How does blah, whatever, you know, or that does. Another question I ask myself is, how do the cops look? How are the cops? if if I'm like, if I'm if I'm like scared, they're bullies, they misuse their power, they're jerks, blah blah blah, blah and all that. They were bullied in high school and now they're blah blah. Blah. Most likely, I am in a state of guilt and I'm doing bad and doing wrong. Because when I'm like when I'm not in that state, they're my protectors. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, so
right.
how does authority look at any moment tells me where I'm at spiritually. You know what I'm saying? If
Wow, that's another
I'm like,
good point. Yeah,
yeah, if I'm like, screw the cops, you can bet that I'm not spiritually fit. You know what
right.
I'm saying? So
So then at some point after the was it Marines or after that training didn't go as planned, you went back to New York, and what then?
was high the second I mean, this was years ago. This is before I got sober.
Yeah.
But was high the set within, you know what I mean? A minute of yucky story. My grandma, God bless her, had this spoon that she had from Russia. It was like a silver spoon. And as a junkie, you use spoons. So I remember stealing it from her, even though it was like given to her by her grandmother and all that stuff. And and I screwed myself on that because the higher quality of the spoon, the longer it takes to, the more drama. And usually, so this lighter broke, the next lighter broke. Anyway, I know it's a yucky story, but anyway, so yeah. So okay, so sober. I mean, sooner or later I got high again. This is years later.
Yeah.
After spiritual awakening, I was misusing the light and for seduction, for I'm sure with men for manipulation too. I'm sure. You know what I'm saying? So anyway, that's for someone like me, that's a guarantee I'm gonna get high again. And the longer I'm sober, the more it gets narrower and narrower, and I have to do less to already get, what I'm saying? Before I'd have to just cheat on a girl with a few girls, and maybe then I start blah, blah, blah. Now it's like, you know what I mean? If I look, like, it's already instantly like a drug starts to work on her.
That makes sense, because the road keeps narrow, like the straight and narrow. Yeah. Wow. Okay, that's interesting. So it makes sense, because the higher you are in progress, the more, the less deviation you have to do. Otherwise, you'll fall off again.
Immediately. Yes.
Right. So did you at some point then go to a Dr. Hawkins lecture?
Yes. Yes. I can tell you the first time I met Doc, if you want.
Yeah, go. By the way, do you have if you have near anywhere headphones? Because I'm hearing feedback myself.
You are. Okay, that's not good.
But if you don't, that's fine, because it's not too bad. I'm just
not. So I'm gonna tell you something that it's embarrassing. I'm sure this computer has headphones, but I don't know where they are.
all right, that's fine.
Would you rather I have headphones on a phone? Would you rather I?
No, it's fine. Let's
sure?
continue. I was just
Is it bad? No, I don't want to. I don't want you to be miserable. Is it? You sure? I can do it on the phone right now with the headphones, and it'll be fine. All right, give me 1 second. Let me just. Shame on me. Don't even know where the headphones go.
No. It's my fault. I should have told you before.
Okay. So, hold on 1 second. All right. So, is this really bad? Because it's really bad.
No. It's just when I speak at the end, sometimes there's a bit of feedback, and that's it. So right now there was nothing. Hey, Dougie.
Yeah. So for years, how my wife and I met.
Yeah.
We were officers for Broward County, like Fort Lauderdale, animal divisions. So, animal cruelty, serving police, war, anything to do with animals was us. And I was her training officer. So,
wow.
Yeah. So, and anyway, she removed this dog for cruelty. Yeah. So.
Wait, this dog was had owners that were cruel to him, and she rescued him.
She took him. She brought him in, and I remember I walked by. He was just so handsome. I never had a dog, and came in and gave him like some kind of treat, and he was just like, I was in love immediately. Okay, so anyway, okay, you talk, dude. I'm talking a lot.
Right. Well, it's mostly my guest talk anyway. I'm just directing traffic here. It's fine. So all right. So basically, then you go back to Doc's work, right? And you start reading, or you go to a lecture.
Okay. Oh yeah.
Yeah. Let's go there.
So, all right. So I make it to a lecture, first lecture. During the break, I come up to this was in 2006. June 2006, I come up to Susan afterwards and say, hey, my name is Eric. I was hooked on heroin for years, and you and your husband's work pretty much saved me. And I just want to say thank you. And, not in the microphone, just between her and I. And she said these words, do you want to meet him?
Wow.
And I said instantly, I'm like, really? Just come. She walks me out back. Doc and an old man, a security guard, are smoking cigarettes. Doc smoking.
Yeah.
And she says to me, nobody else around. She says to me, Dave, this is Eric. He used to shoot heroin and now he doesn't. And then she leaves. So, so, so it's Doc and, this guy. And immediately, and I spent, in an ashram I spent some time like a lot in the Hindu path. So immediately I dropped my fully like face on the ground. Immediately, like, you know what I mean? Kissing his feet and tears are going, right? And and just thank you. Anyway, so I look up because I'm not enlightened. So I want to see what the reaction is. So, and the security guard was like, you got a 25-year-old man like Mary Magdalene face first kissing your feet with tears, right? So like he was like, you know what I mean? So and Doc says these words. He says, "Pay no attention. It makes him happy." That's what he said.
Bro, I've heard this story. I heard this
Yeah.
story. I think I was at the meeting in Sedona when you said that. I think you were saying that you thought you were the only doc student that was below 200.
Oh wow.
You.
Maybe.
This was Sedona. It was a Dr. Hawkins meeting, and that was the exact words that
Yeah.
he was talking to a friend, and
Pay
was
no
it?
attention. It makes him happy. That's
Yes. But
isn't that
maybe that
hilarious?
happened to two people now. I don't know.
To this day, this student looks at that as a learning experience because that's humility. That is true humility. You know what I mean? He wasn't like pretending like, oh, you don't have to do it. There's nothing. Attention makes him happy. So that is like what humility looks like, compared to many times when I'm like that. You know what I mean? So yeah. Anyway.
Wow.
So he like, I get on my knees in front of him like this, and he says these words. He goes, "You know what the chances are of quitting heroin? 0." He said 0 like that. He said, "You want my blessing? You got it." And he puts his hand on this head and says, "If you want my blessing, you got it." And he lifts up his hand. And then like a second later, he's like, "Why are you still here?"
You wanted to squeeze as much time as you could.
When the juice every freaking, he could have agreed to beat me. I would have said yes. So,
Wow.
anyway, so yeah, he gave me the "Why are you still here?" It's like, so I like walked out backwards, like you know what I mean?
Was that the only lecture you attended, or was it other ones?
I was blessed to meet him 5 times.
5 times.
Yeah.
Same.
And so funny because you said same? You too?
Yes. Yeah. Same.
My man. Are you in the States? Where are you?
No, I was I'm in Slovenia, but I was so fortunate that I got a visa for summer work 2 years in a row, and I made it so that my schedule was like I flew into Arizona, saw a lecture, then went to Wyoming, worked 4 months, then came back, saw a lecture, and then flew back to Europe.
2
years in a row, and I was like, wow, this is.
Was it worth it? Plus,
so
Sedona is
blessed.
beautiful, isn't it?
Yeah.
Wyoming is beautiful too. So
right.
Wow.
And the first time was I blew all my savings because I thought I saw his lectures, and then I thought in 2008, I thought, well, I think he might pass away soon, and I have to see him. I was just like, I have to see him. This was 2008, and I blew all my savings to go to Los Angeles. And since I was in Los Angeles, I went to a Laker game the evening before the lecture, and then, and then straight next day straight to the lecture, man. Long Beach, Hilton Hotel, I think. But it was.
Oh, that's right. I remember that. He had. There's a recording of it. Yeah.
Yeah, March
Long
2008.
Beach.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's hilarious there. I remember.
Which lectures were you there for? So 2006, and then.
I'm kind of a crackhead. Okay. I had no idea which ones, except one. There was one where I was blessed to give him he loved chicken liver. On a CD, he said that he loves chicken liver, and I do, and probably the only two people in America that like chicken liver. My wife hates it, like, but I love it, and it's cheap, so it made me. I survived. Anyway, so and he also said in that lecture about caramel sutra ice cream. You know, there's this. So
Right.
so I went during the break and got him a cooler with ice and chicken liver and caramel sutra ice cream.
I think I saw that. Yeah.
Really?
Yeah, I think I saw that. Yeah,
It could have been an. Oh wait, were you there?
No, I saw the video. I think
Oh,
I
you
saw
did.
the video. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah. So yeah. Anyway, so yeah.
All right.
So
So and it's obviously changed your life a lot because before you couldn't stop, and then almost as a direct consequence of his work, he started the 12-step work, and then would you say that going to see him to see his lectures provided strengthened your recovery?
oh my God, yes. Oh my God, yes, yes. Being in that energy field, yes, 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 yes.
Yeah.
Being in that energy field, yes, 100%,
And the
100%.
people you
You
meet
know,
there. Yeah, I know. It's amazing.
no, wow, we're aligned. Both 5 times. We're aligned. You know what I mean?
Right. And
Honestly, it's good.
and the people you meet there are just probably the nicest people I've ever met, like at the lecture.
Students.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I don't know. Were you there at the last lecture in
Yes.
September?
Love lecture.
Yes, I was
Yes.
there. All right.
You were?
Yeah.
Oh.
I,
So we've been in each other's energy field too. But it was really, we both were in Doc's energy field. You know what I'm saying?
right.
I love you, bro. That's awesome. That is awesome. I see, I love a sold out student, a badass student who spends all of his savings to come and see, and from Slovenia, which is freaking 10,000 miles away, and just in America to New York to California is 3,000 miles plus the whole ocean. You know what I'm saying? That is, dude, you have my respect. That is freaking awesome. That
Yeah,
is grace.
it seemed
Grace.
like the only sensible thing to do at the time, and I think it was correct. It was
Yes, 100%.
actually now looking back at since it was in California, I should have just stayed there, man. Well, that wouldn't be the same actually if I stayed illegally. Anyway, so let's talk a bit about the mind, because okay, this has been my observation, because Doc's work has been so wide that um some people are more attracted to the intellectual side and the great books, and the other people are more interested in the devotional part. So I think I know which one you're interested in, but I'm just gonna ask for the sake of asking. So which one are you the most attracted to?
Honestly, I love Doc. Uh, the heart definitely has the student, uh, but the mind, his pathway of the mind, very much helped the heart. Like the understanding that at every level of consciousness is a positionality, whatever it is, and it's a positionality. It has attraction to every single one, and any whether it's low or high or higher, it's a positionality. So like the joy of letting go of positionalities helped me become much more loving. Like so, like in the pathway in the mind,
Mm,
as docs. But like if I think you're a good for this student, a good I guess a good teacher is all the exceptions. The exceptions to love, the exception, blah, 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 you know what I mean? Every single one of them is a positionality held by energy. So if I ask for more of that energy and it's let go, you know what I mean? Like, yeah.
right.
So
For those who don't know, Doc had a simple practice. Like even kindness without exception will take you a long way. But the thing is, it sounds very simple, but it's
yeah,
extremely difficult.
without exception, it's yes. It's so funny. Doc uses certain words like eventually. Eventually for Doc it'd be 25 lifetimes. Eventually one lets go of love.
Right.
But, yeah. So
So
yeah. a good practice is, and if anyone has done step work, or you write down every exception to love, who is not worthy of love, child molesting, animal abusers, blah, 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 every single one of them. Like, there's my teacher. You know what I mean? There's my teacher. Like, every single exception to love, to peace, to blah, blah, blah. You know what I mean? And they change. Because when I'm angry, I'm looking at like Al Pacino in Scarface as my hero. You know what I'm saying? I'm looking at rappers when I'm angry as, you know what I mean? At another level, it's like, ugh. You know what I'm saying? So, yeah.
For me, it's a lot of it is because I'm back in university, and
What are you studying? What are you studying, by the way?
economics and theater studies. So
Oh, wow.
it's a bit of both. And I got this email today that really annoyed me. It was this teacher. Because I'm like saying to the faculty, and there needs to be intellectual diversity. Intellectual pursuit is a full contact sport, stuff like that. But I was saying it more in mild mannered, tactful way. And I was quoting this book and saying, "Oh, this book says all white people are racist and all that," and she comes back saying, "Oh, this book never said that." And then I looked up; it was right in the book, and I'm saying, and the indignation comes up. Like, this is a professor, and she like almost like lies to me in an email, and all. Oh my gosh, like, really, I still feel it.
I get it. Yeah,
So
100%.
talk about another thing that we're talking about, this is the letting go technique. So this is another huge thing from the book,
Yeah,
Letting Go.
I mean, this student can tell you how he does it. Um, Honestly, of all the spiritual practice, besides non-positionality, non-opinions, probably the most, by far, powerful and the most remover of obstacles is the letting go technique. Everyone does it differently. Uh, so how this student does real quick, let's say an energy comes up. An energy comes up, it's always here. It's always here. So there's an energy up there, and if I follow the mind, it's going to give me a cause for it. It's because you're. It's because she blah blah blah. It's because they blah blah blah. Every level, every positionality has a cause to it. Like, you know what I mean? So instead, and the hardest part of this exercise, at least for the student, is to not follow the mind, because the mind is really good at what it does, and it is very convincing. Is to ask for more of the energy and not follow the mind. The second I follow the mind, it's like it's coming up. The second I follow the mind, I go horizontal. It's like it's coming up vertically, and it changes. Seemingly, it changes. From the lower levels to the higher level. But anytime I follow the mind, it stops at that point and says, "I am feeling this way because of."
Right.
So the hardest part for them, I'm not trying to teach. I'm just saying that's how this student. So the hardest part of the whole thing is to not follow the mind, because the mind is very convincing. It really feels that I'm freaking so angry because of what was done, in 1938. You know what I'm saying? That's really why. You know what I mean?
Right.
So, yeah.
Well, yeah. So to give a brief overview of the letting go, basically, a lot of energy is either suppress or repress, and it's like I link it into like a pressure tank. So like the more something happens, it just keeps getting on, but not just what happened in this lifetime, but what happened in previous lifetimes. So if you don't release it with anything, like, you can act it out, or you can use escapism with drugs, etc.
Okay.
But this is still gonna accumulate, right? So with letting go, you go directly into it, and you start to release the valve, and the pressure goes out, and you might feel worse. I think that's the hardest part for people
Yeah.
to, quote unquote, suffer while they do letting
Get
go. They're like,
stronger,
I
especially
feel
if it's
so
very
bad,
repressed. It gets stronger. Yes. Yes.
and that's
Uh,
normal.
yeah. So yeah. Um, for this student, it's like every energy is right here. And if I go into the energy field, how I picture it, like if I had like a right, right in the solar, if let's say there was a guitar string stretched out like that, and I was hung, the whole body was hung up right there by the guitar string. Like when I do it with that intensity, it's much, much faster. You know what I mean? So that, here's what I learned. This same energy will come out regardless. So it might come out in 6 months of road rage, get pissed off at work. My wife and I don't see eye, blah, 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 right? And that's okay. You know. So let's say there's 2 liters of this energy. The 2 liters are coming out regardless, but it can come out like drop, screw up my life here, screw up my life here, screw up my life here, or same 2 liters with intention and focus. I can sit down, watching the dishes or anything. This like the what, like after a while one gets good at doing it in any situation. Even playing music, when I play music, and I can go through the same amount of 2 liters in 5 minutes. So recently, I remember my wife said something to me, and the student, before was just before, you know what I mean, and it looked like So, and everything in me was convinced that she is, laughing at me, talking shit, like blah, blah, you know what I mean? So anyway, so this student went to the bedroom for 14 minutes. I remember like 14 minutes, sat, focused on this energy and asked for more and asked for more and asked for more. Lord, if it's within thy will, please give me more of this energy. Lord, if it's within thy will, please make me willing to feel out every single drop of this energy over and over and over. And then 14 minutes later, it went, and I came out, and that same thing, is freaking hilarious. The same, So, yeah. So the hardest part for the student is to not follow the mind. The mind always goes horizontal and says, you are feeling this way because of blank.
Right.
And as the energy changes, when it goes from guilt, it switches to desire. Now I'm like, I want to putza, you know what I'm saying? And it's anger. It's like the energy changes. And at any point I can stop it, follow it horizontally, and it will be convincingly that is because of blank. And it's always something external. It's always because they, she, them, you know what I mean? And on. So the practice for this student, the most difficult and the most rewarding, is to ask for more of the energy and not follow the mind. That is like number 1, number 2, number 3. The mind is very good at what it does, and it will convince. And often, like, I follow the mind, and then wait a second, and then I go back. But it was right after, you know what I'm saying? But the best letting session, the most powerful, is when I ask for more of the energy and I do not follow the mind. So yeah, that's just this experience.
Wow, I've never actually practiced. I'll admit this. I never practiced non-positionality much, so it's quite inspiring to see others, because I will admit I have certain positions, especially because I've read a lot in politics and all that, and I kind of like the. Sometimes I like the joust. Sorry.
Yeah. Said you have a juicy Facebook page.
Yeah, before the podcast, it was even more. I think, yeah, it was.
Thank you for not bringing that to Dot Flock, by the way. Thank you.
Yeah. So
go ahead.
Non-positionality. So how do you practice that?
You're asked, so every positionality is a cloud blocking the sun. So if I want to be unconditionally loving, that's my goal, to become unconditionally loving. Every single positionality splits everything into 2 things, and I can really, really love the right side, but I hate the left side. You know what I'm saying? Every positionality is held by an energy field, whether it's guilt, anger, blah, blah, blah. Anyway, so this, thank God, that was one of the teachings, even when I was trying to put to that girl in rehab, like that already. So practicing non-positionality. So the purpose of any opinion, the purpose of any option, any position, anything, is juice. I can call it other things. I can make it because it's right. The truth is, it's just, I want to juice that energy.
Basically, enjoy it. You enjoy
it.
Yeah.
Yes, juice it like juicing an orange. It seems like it's because of blah, blah, because Obama, blah, blah, or whatever, depending on the drama. Everyone has their own drama. You know what I mean? Blah, blah, it's because the Catholic Church, blah, blah. The truth is, if one removes the mind, that's an energy field, and I'm getting off, getting drunk, getting high, the way I used to shoot heroin, getting high on this energy field. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so knowing that, every positionality, no matter how smart, fancy, you know what I mean, is a block to love, because it splits everything into worthy of love and not worthy of love. You know what I'm saying? So everyone, every positionality is a block to love.
Let's
And
talk about
yeah.
positionality, because some people that listen or watch this are not doc students and they may not be aware. So positionality, as we're talking here, is about uh, as I would say a value judgment. Like, this is right, this is wrong, this is a position, good, bad. Right? Would you agree with that?
uh, yeah. Generally, the ego splits everything into right and wrong, no matter
Yeah.
what it is. And
Yeah.
right and wrong can change. It doesn't have to be a religious right and wrong. Right and
Right.
wrong can be, like, for example, in jail, which calibrates 60, 65.
Yeah.
Uh, if someone is kind or respectful to the guards, they are wrong. And people are like, whoa, that's a cop. You know what I'm saying? He's
Oh.
snitching. If he says thank you, he's a police officer, he's an informant, he's like that. So unless
Oh.
one is a love conscious, when one is, I had two separate, I went to jail, and then recently, a few years ago, I went again because I got high again. And again, 17 years later, came up to a police officer and said, I can't stop, please help me. Two separate times, 17 years apart, crazy. Huh? Anyway, I'd probably be dead. I don't know, who knows? But anyway, so everything is split into right and wrong. So if someone is committed to, here's with jail, with levels of consciousness, if someone is loving, genuinely committed to love, they get a pass. So I got a pass by grace. I got a pass. Whereas, anyone seemingly under the level of love, it's like an alpha, like everything is competition. Oh,
Yeah.
at love, like they even in jail, they sense a like harmlessness and openness. Right? Uh, Real quick, I went to jail a few years ago, 3 years ago, uh, withdrawing. After the withdrawal stopped, I asked God to reveal himself to me in jail. I was on the west coast of Florida, which is literally 97% white, 2%, 3% black, and other, and lots of KKK. Some guys, like, there was 64 people in the thing, and like a good 30 of them. One had a swastika on his face. Just think about a
Wow.
tattooed swastika on his face. Talking about sold out. Well, the Iron Cross, the Germa, this one guy, he was a great drawer, and everywhere he went, he would draw Hitler. Another one would draw swastikas, So, and my paperwork, by the way, says Jewish. so, but, so I asked God to reveal himself in the KKK, to reveal himself in the Nazis, to show himself, because it's easy to see it, in the sweet girl. It's easy to see the new Matthias, in the dog, in the church. That's not hard. It's, I want to see him in what's considered unloving, hateful, So I asked him. So, quick story. I asked God to reveal himself. So there was one guy who's like my workout buddy. He was like the leader of the KKK of that cell block, or Aryan Nation, whatever Nazi stuff, right? So anyway, and we got pretty close. Everywhere he went, he would draw a swastika. No bullcrap. Like on the wall, on the door, on the on a cup, everywhere. That was like his thing. I mean, God bless him. So anyway, so I asked God to reveal himself, right? So 2 days before I get out, okay, a few weeks before that, he gets a cellmate in jail. By the way, that the bottom bunk is like the first class, the bottom, like bottom and top. Bottom is like it's like a Rolls Royce. The
Really?
bottom is, yeah. You have to like have back problems where they put someone on top. You know what I mean?
Right.
So yeah. So anyway, so this guy's on the bottom, living his life, and he gets a cellmate who is black and has a back pass. So not only does he have to share a cell with a black dude, he has to go on the top bunk. so,
Ooh, juicy.
so really juicy, dude. So anyway, I remember him flipping up, you know what I mean? Like freaking, anyway. And I remember asking God, Lord, please reveal thyself. Please. I can't see you. I can't see thee. It's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So him and I, I never talked to him about love or God or anything like that. Or, hey, you should not be a Nazi. I didn't do any of that. I was just, what we worked out, and I was just loving to him. And he came close to me, you know what I mean? I never followed him, but a lot of times he would come to me there's a safety there by grace. Anyway, so 2 days before I get out, we're all sitting. A bunch of the guys used to come to our cell. We called it Hotel 10. A bunch of them would like sit in our cell. We came to us. Like I wouldn't seek them, but this doc student. So I remember there was like 6 or 7 people, like 3 on each bunk, no one standing, and they're like teasing him. They're like, "Hey, his name is Sean. Hey, Sean, how's your roommate? How's your room? You know what I mean? Like, and he says these words. He goes, "You know something? He's not that bad." And when I heard that, like, okay, tears in my, you know what I mean? You don't cry until you don't show that, but he's not that bad. Like, it's grace in whatever form, like, yeah. And then 2 days later, I got out. It's like the power of love changes anything. Like, no matter what it is, even KKK and Black, which are sworn enemy, even there is love there. Like the willingness to like talk to him, to not just, you know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
that is grace. Anyway.
Wow. And that was like what, 6 years ago or more? You said?
No, that was March, because I got rearrested in March 2018. I got arrested March 23rd on 2018, whatever that is. 3 years.
Well, Doc said that addiction is a fast way to God in a way. He either dies, but you grow spiritually. That's
It's either that or die. It's either get God or die. That might not be the truth for every single, for this addict. If there was a third option, I sold it for a bag of dope long ago. It's either shine in God, help, you know what I mean, or die alone. For me, with a needle in my arm. Which sounds like a juicy alternatives, but that's pretty much, yeah.
Yeah.
Like some people can like smoke weed. The second I do anything, I immediately want a needle in my arm. So there's no like, you know what I mean? There's no option of like, it's called, in AA, they call it marijuana maintenance program. I can't do that. If I smoke today, I'll be in the hood buying dope tonight. Doubtless. I tried to prove that wrong 1,000 times. You know what I mean?
Wow. Yeah. But it keeps you on the straight and narrow. And also it's a wonderful program because you get to help other people as well. I just want to talk about something that I haven't mentioned before, but it's so I think in the group actually we read something about that. I think it alluded to letting go, not being safe for energies that are lower than 75, which is grief, right? So talk a little bit about surrendering to God, because I think that's I think if you do it properly, surrender your life to God, that's 850 if I remember correctly. So that's a really high energy, right? So
I wouldn't know. I might have read it, but I wouldn't know what 850 is. So I know doc, God bless them, but seemingly I know doc students that like in doc groups, thank God not ours, but in other doc groups talk about levels of consciousness, like that's where there are. Like that's not how level 731 is. Let me tell you how 731, you know what I'm saying? Like so one of the rules in the group is we stay true to our level of consciousness and not some hypothetical, you know what I mean?
Right. But what's your experience with surrendering to God at great depth?
So we talked about positionalities and attractions, aversions. Seemingly the mind wants pleasure and can't stand pain. Even the name, pain. So how this student practices is everything from the lowest to the highest is just an energy field. So, without positionality, you know what I mean? The lower levels are just energy fields. The higher levels are just energy fields. The mind says, I'm feeling this because of blank, and I want to feel like this. So the mind wants to put everything in how I am and hypothetical, how I should feel, what I should do, how, and on and on and on. So, right? So the willingness to be at every moment the energy field that's there. To to not follow the mind and split it into, I don't want to feel this, but you know, like Doc says, if there's an atomic bomb that blows up 100,000 people, you know, a normal person will say, oh, that's awful, whoa. But it's showing what level 30 looks like in the world at that time. That's it. So every single thing in this world, every person, every thought is whatever it is at that level. So level 31 is not level 540.
Right.
So it's a mistake for me to be like that dirt, like Osama bin Laden should be unconditionally loving. That's a mistake. Osama bin Laden is the perfect expression of 31ness in year 2020. You know?
Right.
So
It's
so
the
anyway, so the whole real quick. So the surrender part is the willingness to be okay with whatever the energy field is, instead of it should be blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? So if 30 comes, Lord, I thank you for the 30ness. Please let me have more of this 30. You know what I mean? The second something comes up, the mind instantly wants to get out of it, wants to change it, blah, blah. So, you know, surrender for the student is to not do that. It's just to be like, okay, this is what this feels like. And it's there until it's gone. Anyway, go ahead, I interrupt you.
For me, it's about, sometimes it's like when I'm doing letting go, I'm like, well, let God have it. I'm like, I can't do it. And another thing you kind of briefly alluded to is the expectation. Like, we have the expectation other people. It's not what other people are. It's what you think they should be. Or they should be more kind. They should be this. They should be that.
What they are not. It's more like what Doc says.
Right. It's a hypothetical because they're not. So, wow, we are where we are, and they are where they are. And also, he sometimes says things like, if people could be better, they would. If people could do better, they would do better. And that saved me some guilt for myself.
how that teaching expresses, like, for example, if I'm walking a whole city block, with someone who has one leg and he's barely walking, I have no problem walking slower, you know what I mean, showing him compassion, you know what I mean, because he can't. If I'm walking with a 17-year-old teenager that's in great shape and he just you know what I'm saying, it changes. Why? Because I feel that he won't. You know what I mean? The more I see can't, the more loving I can be. The mind puts everything into won'ts. Like, you know what I mean? Like Osama bin Laden won't be 540. He can't. And every human being on this planet at any moment cannot. Not, you know what I mean? The more the student grows, cannot becomes a will not. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
The second I put will, like you said, should. You know what I mean? The meaning they have the ability, but they just don't want to. You know what I mean? Which is different than if they have one leg, you know, and they, you know what I mean, walking slow. So the mind likes to put exceptions seemingly on everything, as they won't.
Right. And this is especially true, like I said, in the political and all that arena, where there's a lot of it's friction, you know. All right. Anything we didn't mention that you want to mention now?
I remember in Buddhist scripture, a monk came up to the Buddha and asked him, what are the reasons that people go to war with each other? You know why? And the first one he said was views. So in other words, positionalities. Views, that's what the Buddhist term seemingly calls positionality, whatever, opinions, whatever. So this student practices non-opinionness, non-positionality, non-viewness, you know what I mean, which is sometimes easier than others. So it looks like people argue about politics. And that's like, it seems like, you know, the Democrat, Republican, whatever the Joe is. But if one takes away the words and the Democrat, if one takes away and just leaves the energy field, it's both are getting off on that energy field and seeing the other person as wrong, and on and on. So the willingness to give up that energy field, surrender that energy field to God, which depending on the state I'm in, sometimes it's a lot easier than others. When I'm in a loving state, that's not that hard. But when I'm, you know what I mean? Because the mind is saying, I feel that way because you blah, blah. You know what I mean? Anyway, the willingness to give up the energy field, the getting off on that energy field. Yeah, that's
Right. Yeah, I think the way Doc spoke about, if he mentioned, because I loved his social commentary and all that, people that he mentioned, like Thomas Sowell and whatnot. But he seemed to come from a different place, as in, this is the truth, like a diagnosis, like a doctor of, well, he was a doctor of medicine, but like a doctor of seeing what's happening in the world with his. He had the intellect, but also he had the obviously the mystical awareness. So he had both, and the calibrations as well. Yeah, let's end on calibration or muscle testing. So have you used much of that in your life?
years ago in the past, I have for a little bit.
Hmm.
Uh, Somebody else can use it with integrity. I did not. So long ago. So very simple for the student. If Doc did not calibrate it, I don't need to know it. That's simple. That's not for anyone else.
Yeah.
If Doc would not, if it's not calibrated by Doc, whatever it is extraneous, is unnecessary for the path of enlightenment, for devotion, for love, for God. You know what I mean? So if Doc didn't calibrate it, I don't need to know it. If I don't understand it, and it's meant for me to know it, it will reveal itself in due time. So yeah. So, but that's, other people can calibrate, and God bless him. The student, if the Doc did not calibrate it, it's not necessary for me to know. And if Doc didn't calibrate, it's drama. Whatever it is, it's drama. That's simple. It's drama.
Yeah,
So
people juicing on, like you say, juicing on
right.
stuff. Yeah, wanting to be right.
All egos are the same. So yeah, every ego chooses. You know.
Right. Well, I think yeah, this is a good place to end. I think we've covered a lot of ground. I want to thank you for
People
being.
actually watch this.
Sorry.
People watch this.
People watch this is better than a lot of other entertainment, I would say.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is. I'm okay.
Yeah, I feel like my thing is, if it helps one person that watches this, if it helps one person, then it's worth doing,
It helped me. There's one person. It definitely helped me. You know what I'm saying? Definitely, this student is better since we done it. So there's the
Okay,
one person.
I'm glad to hear. So here's Eric Berger, everybody. Thank you for being on, and
Thank you, brother. Thank you.
thank you everybody for watching or listening.
Glory in excelsis Deo.
God bless.